Hey guys, welcome back to the Back Porch Studio. We've got a great treat for you today. One of my very good friends and a local resident of the community, owner and luthier at Mistress Guitars, Mr. Chris Tiemann. Chris, how are you, brother?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
Tony and I have been very excited about doing this. We have, Chris and I have been playing music together. We were trying to do the timeline today, but best guess was around 2005-ish.
Somewhere around there.
Chris and I started playing guitar together, playing music together, along with Jeremy Marino and Garrett Holland, that turned into the band Buckshot, that Chris and I still play in together from time to time whenever he has time to do it. But Chris has been busy building guitars, and we have a few of them here that we are just very proud of and love to play. And we thought it would be a good thing to bring Chris, into the studio and talk a little bit about what he's doing and give him an opportunity to show his guitars off. So we've got a few of them today. Chris, give us just a little bit of the backstory about how you got started with guitars.
How I got started? I was bored.
Just bored?
I was bored. We lived in town. I do construction for a living, so
right.
I didn't have a space to put all my stuff in, and so I didn't have any projects going. I felt like I would go to work, I'd get home, I'd sit in front of the TV, I'd go to sleep, wake up the next morning and do the same thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So honestly, I was bored. I picked up electric guitar one day and I kind of looked at it and I said, let me check this out. Looks like a slab of a body, and I don't know how you do the neck. A couple routed pockets on the inside.
Right.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Passed it up. I just kept playing. Well, next time I picked up a guitar, I picked up the acoustic.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to looking at that, and I was like, well, there's some braces on the inside. I wonder what that's about. I don't know how they bent the sides around there.
Right.
And, the neck is a whole nother thing. And so I took all the strings off and stuck my hand on the inside, and I'm like, oh, there's braces everywhere in here. What's going on?
Gotcha.
And it just piqued my attention, caught it, and went to Amazon and bought a book about how to build a guitar.
I remember you shared it with me.
Yeah.
And I started reading it, and I immediately said, this is too advanced
Yeah.
for a guy with no woodworking background.
So I read the book cover to cover.
Yeah.
The first time. Didn't understand most of it, then read it again and caught a little bit more. In my construction background kind of led me on a little bit, so I understood how things were done. A lot of it was all hand tools. I still use all hand tools. I only use a table saw to cut the joints for the neck and the body. The rest of it is all hand tools.
Wow.
Chisels, planes. Yeah.
And from start to finish, I know you've told me this before, but this was one of the amazing things to me. From start to finish, what does an average guitar take you to build?
About 80 hours.
80 hours
80
a time.
hours.
Wow. And there's a lot of that's just waiting, too. Just waiting for stuff to dry and
Yeah, that's
cure.
not figuring the wait time.
Right. Okay, so that's not counting that.
Not
Wow.
counting.
Or the prep time, I would imagine either. It ain't getting the shop open and doing all that. It's
Right.
actually
Right, that's the actual work.
Yeah.
Work part of it.
Wow.
Yeah, the finish takes a good while. I do all my guitars with a nitro lacquer, like they were done back in the day.
Gotcha.
And so you spray a couple coats and you let it dry and wait a week and then sand a little down and then spray a couple more and then wait a week. There's a lot of waiting.
So patience
involved.
is a necessity.
Just the finishing process is a couple week process. Not that
Wow.
you're working that whole week, but you're just hurry up and wait.
Just
You're
hurry up.
stressing over it
Yeah.
that coat didn't take well and you got to
Yeah.
go back and add
How
more
much
time.
orange peel do you have?
Exactly.
You got to sand out.
So with your construction background, you work for your uncle, correct?
Yep.
And have since you were how old?
20.
So you
20,
started
and I'm 40 now, so 20 years.
20 years in construction.
20.
And you started building guitars within the last 5 years?
I look today. First guitar right there.
Yes.
2013.
Okay.
Wow.
So we're 8
years.
8 years into it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, let's take a look at the first guitar, the first Mistress guitar. We've got to take a look at this. It's got some history. I'd love to know the woods you used and just some story behind it.
Well, the history is I didn't have any idea if this thing was going to come out sounding like a cardboard box. So I didn't spend a lot of money on materials. Like I've probably spent $300 or $400 on the materials. I mean, it was absolutely. I just bought the cheapest thing that I could find.
Right.
You know, I mean, you can tell it's got knots in here, and the little pin knots where that dropped it down a grade.
Huh. And what type of woods are these?
Sitka top, mahogany back and sides, mahogany neck, ebony fretboard and bridge.
Nice.
And this was a big learning process.
No
this
inlay or anything. I mean,
not in the fretboard. This was my first attempt at inlay. It's very.
And I remember you telling us that the process of this is, I mean, that's not something that you buy just pre-constructed. You're actually cutting those pieces.
You can, but yes, on this one I did. I actually cut. These are actually like about 1-inch pieces.
Okay, that you cut to make.
Formed to this radius and.
Gotcha.
And cut individually and individually matched, to make this Rosetta. That's probably what I'm proud about the most on this guitar because it still looks.
It looks really good. Yeah.
Really good.
It looks like you knew what you were doing.
Almost. Almost.
So how long after this one did it take? What was the next one after this, and how long did it kind of take you to say, I want to try it again?
This one took me about 150 hours.
Wow.
To make. And that was a lot of. I was following the book,
Right.
The book was, step by step by step. So a lot of it was, okay, I cut it 3 7/8. You mark it out, and you're like, let me go check that again.
Right.
You go check it, and then you recheck. A lot
Right.
of it was just checking over everything, not really knowing how everything was put together.
Sure.
So there was just a big learning curve in this one. But after this one, I really didn't know if I wanted to make acoustic guitars.
Really?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work. I didn't know if I could make it faster. I mean, you're talking about how do you charge somebody for 150 hours worth of work
Yeah.
on your second guitar,
Right.
that you've ever made. And so I made this electric, and that one was basically parts that you just put together. It was fairly simple. Electrics are fairly simple, just like basses or anything else.
Right.
So that was the next one I did. I don't remember what year that was. Couldn't tell you.
How many have you done total now? You remember?
Electric and acoustics together, I would say, I don't think I've ever counted.
Well, how many we got?
Yeah, how many we got here?
How many
We got
we got
1,
here?
2, 3, 4.
Yeah, 12 maybe, something like that.
Yeah, between 5, 6. So we've got at least 6 here.
So we got 6 here, and then
You've got half of them.
We've got half of them.
We got half of them.
We're
Yeah.
very proud of that also. Yeah, we're very proud of that. So let's hear it. Let's play a little bit of this one if you don't mind. Let's just see the progression from the sound aspect.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question that a
Yeah,
lot
go
of
ahead.
people out here that are watching this already know the answer, but there may be some that don't. With an acoustic guitar, they all have different shapes and they all have different bodies, which should reflect some on what sound comes out. And from a layman's term, from a layman's standpoint, which is exactly where I'm at, to me, a Taylor is kind of usually a skinnier, smaller body, and it's more bright, I guess you would say, where a Gibson usually are bigger bodies. They just, and they've got that lower tone. So where would your very first one that you were making, where does that fall? Is there any semblance to a Martin or a...
I would say probably between a Martin and a Gibson.
Okay.
It's got a lot of mid-range just because of the mahogany.
Okay.
The shape is actually, if you notice, it kind of looks more like a saddle than a guitar.
It's a custom shape for sure.
It was a hand-drawn, that looks about right kind of shape.
Right.
So you will never find another one that looks quite like this.
Which it's unique.
It is unique. But yeah, it's probably between a Martin and a Gibson, closer to a Gibson, I would say, just because of the mid-range quality of it.
Gotcha.
And I will definitely try not to slow down this process, but that when I look at them all, because I've kind of looked at them, they all look different. But I'm like, I wonder what the inspiration was.
Yeah, this particular guitar, I remember we played a show. I was living out of the state and came back in to play a show with you guys. We played inside. And I think either I brought a guitar or I had one and I wasn't happy with what I was using at the time, but I played this one on stage. I remember doing that. And after that, I think it was fairly soon after that, you had started to build this electric for me,
Yeah.
which I played and was able to put all the components I wanted in it, which was really, really cool. But let's hear a little bit of this one. So
very mid-rangey.
It is very mid-rangey.
This is old strings on here. I actually didn't. I told you earlier, I didn't decide to change the strings on this one because this one stays in the closet. I haven't played. You were probably the last one who played this.
Right. I'm honored.
Yeah. Give it a whirl.
Yeah. We. I remember playing this one that day and saying, how cool it was that you could just read a book, a couple times. Having the background, the knowledge in construction is always really, helpful, I'm sure. But just the creativity that it takes to put into one of these is really cool to me. Very resonant. Rings for a long time. I really liked it.
I was surprised when it got done how actually like a guitar it sounded.
How it sounded,
I was honestly surprised.
Well, because you really don't know.
I didn't have any idea what to expect.
Yeah. I mean,
a lot of the building of that one, it's hard to describe how much do you thin the top. It's like, I thought about this today. It's like, how would you describe Jimi Hendrix's guitar tone or Vince Gill's guitar tone by writing it out? How would you describe it? It'd be almost impossible.
Yes.
You might could get a little specific and say, well, it sounds like a Strat through a Fender, or it sounds like a Les Paul through a Marshall. But unless you know what those sound like, you have nowhere to go. I remember in the book, when it got to thinning the top, they kind of gave you their take on how they did it, and it just said, honestly, there's probably some things that we just can't tell you. We can't show you. You can't hear through a book what we're listening for when we thin the top down.
So, that's why this is such an art.
It is.
That's
an art.
the beauty of it.
And it said, just go ahead and make it an eighth. That's probably close enough. Yeah.
So an eighth of an inch.
That's what I did.
Is the? Did you stick with that, or did you find what you liked?
I just stick with the eighth of an inch
for all of the guitars. They're all.
No.
Oh, okay.
For that one.
Just for that one.
And to be honest with you, it sounds like it should sound. I mean, I don't know. That's not what I do for these. I have another system that I use for thinning the top down. But the first one, you don't know what to listen for. You don't know what to. If you go too much, you ruin the top. You don't go not enough, and it's going to be quiet. It's not going to be.
So there is that there. You have to find that balance between what's too strong, too tight, and too loose for the top to resonate. Right.
That's right.
Yeah. That's when you told me that the first time, or just reading that in the book. It makes perfect sense when someone can explain it to you in those terms.
If you're there in the shop and they say, okay, see how this sounds, that's too much. And then when you thin it down, you can tap it and the resonant frequency will drop to a certain extent. And yeah, you can. If you're there and you're doing, if you're working in a shop, you're doing 100 tops a day, you can knock them out
pretty quickly.
You know exactly what you're listening for, but how do you describe that to somebody without
you really
them being
can't.
there? You can't.
You can't.
Yeah.
I guess that's you can go to a vocal teacher all you want, and they can teach you tricks and the way to not blow your voice out and the way not to to not over sing, but they can't teach you how to nuance sentences and little intricacies of how to sing, but on the guitar it sounds like that would be pretty similar. Was this one pretty was this the first or second one that you had done after the acoustic or after the electric there?
Actually, I remade the Gibson.
So this was the next one. This was a project.
You might be asking, why do you have a Gibson
Can I ask
guitar?
I want to ask one quick question. What style of neck would be on your very first one? Because I've heard you reference that before, where it was like a U or a D or a C. As far as
the shape of the neck.
The shape of the neck. What do you know? Remember what that one was?
No, I wasn't going for anything in particular. Okay. When I built that one, that process that was in the book didn't include the fretboard while you're shaping the neck. It's not the way I build them now, because it's hard to tell how thick that neck needs to be and what shape it needs to be without that extra 1/4 inch on there.
Right.
so now I shape the neck after the fretboard is on, and then, you can feel the neck and say, yeah, that feels about right. The fretboard is on it.
Right.
If you took the fretboard off, that neck felt thin to me.
Well, yeah, because you've got another, what?
A quarter inch. Yeah, quarter to 5/16, yeah. That neck felt thin to me when I shaped it, and then when you add another quarter inch to it, well, now it feels like a baseball bat.
Right. Which this Gibson really is a freaking baseball bat. Dude.
That is a baseball bat.
It's just, you could just hit a home run with this thing. And the sound of it is too. So tell us the story. You found this, or it was given to you?
A buddy of mine was driving
shape?
downtown Brenham, saw somebody carrying a guitar case, threw it in a dumpster. He made it a block. He said, I think I might need to go check that. Turned back around, drove over there, opened up the guitar case, said the handle fell off, and the guitar case was falling to pieces. He looked at it, and he said, it's a Gibson. I don't know anything about guitars, but I know Gibson is a pretty popular brand.
Right.
The bridge was completely, there was a big hole where the bridge was.
A hole just in the top here.
Oh, yeah, it was all, the top was split here. I think it was broke off over here somewhere. There's a big hole where the bridge was. The bridge completely ripped the top off. Cracks in the side. The back was not even attached in the center anymore. It was loose. Braces were falling out. It honestly probably belonged in the dumpster.
He had the right idea.
He had the right idea.
A wise man would have left it in the dumpster.
So he picked it out of there, and he picked all the pieces out, and he brought it to me. He said, I don't know what you're going to do with this, but I found it in the dumpster. And I looked at it, and I was like, it's a Gibson. It's a Banner Gibson. It's old.
How old do you think?
It is either a 43 or a 44. Wow. It's hard to tell because back then, at the time before I fixed it, I couldn't see any sort of serial number or anything inside the neck. Mm-hmm. I knew it looked like an LG2, which is what it is. It looked like that, but I wasn't sure on the date because,
This sucker's old, man.
It is, yeah. It's wartime. When I ended up redoing it, there is a serial number on the inside that's very, very hard to see. It's so worn down.
So you can't make out what...
I can't make out what year it is. I know that if I remember right, they started putting truss rods in around 44. This one does not have a truss rod.
Wow.
It's basically a piece of V, inlay that's underneath the fretboard. There's no truss rod.
So that's the only way to adjust the action.
That's the only way, yeah. No, you cannot adjust the action on it. It is what it is.
Wow.
It is what it is. So I think they started doing that around 44. Some of that wartime area in Gibson, you never kind of know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
That it was a 4-piece.
As far as consistency.
It was a 4-piece top. So there was not only a splice in the middle where it's book matched, but there was another splice on each side. A lot of the things with the bridge, whether these ends are rolled or whether they're square or how the bridge looks or what the neck is made of. The neck is, I think, a 5-piece neck. It's actually a maple neck.
It's huge.
And not...
it's maple.
Maple, not a mahogany neck. Maple and rosewood.
And the body woods, what are these?
The body is mahogany.
Mahogany.
When I redid it, when I decided to redo it, and then when I figured all this stuff out, collector's value is 0 because it's not worth anything. I'm sure you remember coming to the house and picking it up and like, oh, it's an old Gibson.
Yeah.
Sure, it'd be nice to play. And you hang it back up.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I figured if I redid it, the collector's value is still $0 because you ruined whatever you had.
Right.
But at least you could play it.
You can play it now, and it's pretty. It's pretty to look at.
I retopped it. I used all the old braces. I used the back and sides are all original. The fretboard is original.
The sunburst here, that's all the... Did you have somebody redo that? Did you redo this?
I did it. That was the first sunburst I ever did.
Really?
Yes.
That looks perfect.
Spray cans, spray...
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, as I told you guys,
There's a couple blobs in there.
That's fine.
I never do it like that ever.
Let's see how she sounds. Thought you still had this one in drop D.
Like a small box guitar.
Yeah, it's got a good sound to it, and it's super light.
Very light, yeah.
That's probably, gosh, that's a huge difference between those two. But it's still very resonant. Still a nice guitar.
Mm-hmm. So that was the next one I did, just fixing that. And I completely took it all the way apart.
How much did you learn for the next guitars that you built from taking that one all the way apart? Did you learn anything really valuable that stuck with you?
Every time I build a guitar, I learn something new.
Yeah, I'm
Or
sure.
I learn how to do something better, or how to do something easier, maybe,
Right.
with the same outcome. I'm always looking for ways to cut the time down with a better outcome. I always used to this butt wedge here. I used to route that out by hand, and it took so long to do. I couldn't think of a better way to do it, and so I ended up making a jig that fits on here. That's kind of got that taper in, and all I got to do is
Just one time and you're good.
and it's done. It used to take me an hour and a half to do. Now it would only take me 30 minutes to do, and most of that time is just marking it out and getting the jig set up right.
Do you know? Because I know there's hundreds, if not thousands, of other small boutique guitar building, or people that do that. Is there a goal? Is there a number that you're shooting for that you'd like to get to as far as the number of hours it takes? I mean, is there somebody that?
No.
No.
Not
just as efficient as you can.
I want to do it as efficiently as I can, but I'll spend as much time on it as I need to.
As you need to. Yeah.
I'm not going to shortchange anybody. If I need to spend some extra time doing this or doing that, I'm totally up for that. I don't have any problem making it right.
Right.
If it needs to be, or something isn't quite fitting right, or something isn't quite right. I remember doing this flame maple around here as a binding, and I think I went to 3 or 4 pieces just to get this curve right at the top because it was such a pain to do.
Right.
But
which this is my favorite. I mean, we're gonna save that one for last because that thing is just. I mean, that's got too much to talk about.
So the next one would have been this one then, the Telly.
No, we went there. So it was there. Then
Yep.
this. Then the Gibson.
Then that one.
Then it was the one on the wall of
Then I
Jacobs.
think yours and mine. I think I built almost at the same time. I started yours first.
I'm biased here, of course, but this is
It's definitely one of my favorites.
this is a very special guitar, and I want you to tell the story about it because this.
Where the wood comes
Yeah,
from.
where all the wood
Yeah.
came from, and just the story.
So the top on that guitar is actually a piano soundboard. We were working here locally, and the folks had this big upright piano, an upright grand, if I remember right. It's huge, and they were just throwing it away. You couldn't get
You
it
got
out
a
the
knack
door,
for getting
so-
stuff people are throwing away.
Yeah.
See this this little pattern.
I know this lady. She's a very good friend of
You
mine.
know, if you're in the construction
and
business,
she
you know
confirms
what I'm
all of
talking
it.
about.
That she
Yeah.
asked, "Hey, do you want it for your studio?" And you were like, "No, I don't have room for this 120-year-old
Yeah.
upright piano or whatever it was in my studio." And she's like, "Well, then we're chunking it." And you're like, "Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'll get it out or something, and I'll."
Yeah, they were breaking
But
it up.
I'm gonna
into
get some of the
to get
pieces
it
out of it.
Yeah.
And they were having to break it apart. They had to break it apart to get it out
to
of the
get it
house.
out of the house.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they took the soundboard out, and I never even crossed my mind before. And they took it out, and I'm like, that's spruce.
Mm-hmm.
I could build a guitar out of that.
Right.
Of course, there's braces and there's holes all everywhere in it, and I took the whole soundboard back to the house and cleaned it all up, took the braces off, tried to figure out where I could miss the holes and
Right.
get a good enough piece to make a guitar out of. And that was the first guitar I built out of that. That was the tightest grain that I could find and what looked the best.
Turned out beautifully.
It is a 4-piece top.
So you
which
can
is
see here too, huh?
about that where that soundboard was. Those pieces were only about 5 inches wide each one, but the grain matched up from piece to piece very well. And
Yeah. I've obviously played it, so it does have some dings.
Oh, sure. It's
But
supposed to.
it's supposed to, right?
It's supposed to.
So the back here.
The back is what I ordered. It's oven call back. It has a little bit of flame in it,
Yeah.
which is really nice, and I like the sapwood in the middle.
So this here is sapwood.
Right.
Gotcha.
The neck is just a piece of mahogany that I had at the house from somebody's cabinets. that I
Right.
had left over.
Nice. So
I'll
this
build,
was
I'll
just.
build all my necks from scratch, and so it started out as basically a 1x4, 3/4 by 3 inches, and that's how I build my necks, and that's just what I had sitting there. The braces.
Was there a rifle stock?
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Oh, okay. I'm
We're-
sorry.
we're getting there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know the difference. Okay.
Tony gets sidetracked. He got sidetracked there
All the braces on the inside are all the braces from that piano.
from the piano.
So the braces that were on that soundboard, I pulled all of those off and ripped them down and sized them. That's what's on there. So the top is, I assume it's Sitka spruce. I don't know. It might be Adirondack at that point in time.
What they were using.
Yeah, I don't know what sort of spruce it was, but it's some sort of spruce. So all the braces and the top is that. The fretboard and the bridge is local walnut that my dad
That was the right
was gonna
mistake.
make
Okay.
I was thinking that
gun
was-
stock out of.
We always get them confused.
Yeah,
Me and
yeah.
Tony always get them
Yeah.
confused.
So I'm like, what part did it? So go ahead, finish.
So that was just, again, something that was in the shop, that was there. The headstock is the same thing. There was a knot in one place when I started ripping down. I found a very pretty little section, but it
comes
wasn't
together
very wide.
Really nice. Okay.
And so I just book matched those two pieces.
Right. Which I've
to the
noticed.
top.
I've noticed in all of your guitars, one of the things that is consistent across all of them is you always use the best components. I mean, as far as the tuning pegs, all the hardware that goes on the guitar. I mean, this is all top-notch stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see a lot of walnut bridges. You don't see a lot of. Actually, if you do see a walnut bridge, it's probably on some lower end guitar, and they do that because it's cheap. But walnut's a great wood for bridges. It's a little soft for the fretboard, but you haven't had any issues out of it.
I haven't had any issues. And going back to the point, anything that I've wanted, as far as just changing action or just any feel or anything, that you've always been great about just taking it back and putting your magic on it.
If something goes wrong with your guitar or anybody else's guitar, I want to know, because I want to know if it's something that I did wrong, is something that I could fix,
Right.
that I won't have to deal with again.
Try to avoid.
If you take it somewhere else and get it fixed, then I don't necessarily know not to do that again.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. Do you think, because this is kind of, I'm sure this has been debated, between vintage guitar collectors, I'm sure. You hear of people putting radios in front of guitars and just letting them play, putting them in closets. I've heard of it.
Yeah. Yeah, they make an actual product for that. I don't know
Just
how it
sits on
operates, but it sits on there, and
So
I don't know
there,
how it operates, but yeah, you let it.
there has to be some truth to the fact that this wood was in a piano for however long and was getting all that sound through it. I mean, there's got to be some truth to the fact that wood does get better with the more it's vibrated, or
Yeah, I mean, I think we know that for sure. I mean, as soon as you put the guitars together and the first time you put strings on them, it sounds a particular way.
Mhm.
The more you play it, the longer, time goes on. 6 months from the day that you put that together, it's going to sound like a totally different instrument
right.
than that day. It's going to open up more. That one has always sounded
I love this one, and
always
that's
sounded good, and that could be the part of it, because
That's
it
why,
was
yeah.
in the piano.
right. It's probably out of tune. We have been changing strings today, so bear with me on that fact. It's a little more bright than this one, but they do have a very similar sound.
Yeah, the open call is supposed to be between a rosewood and a mahogany. A mahogany would be more mid-range. Rosewood would be a little bit more scooped in the middle.
Right.
It's supposed to be between that. I find that that particular piece of wood is probably closer to a rosewood than a mahogany. I don't get as much mid-range out of it.
Right.
It feels like it's more treblier.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But I love that guitar. That's one of,
Is that more based on a Martin now, or
Yeah.
kind of a?
for sure, yeah.
Yeah. The bracing is I don't remember what I did here with that one. That's a 1/4 inch. That's a 1/4 inch bracing, forward shifted, like a pre-war Martin would be.
Okay. Is that something that obviously the bracing in this should be different from like that style of body, correct?
Yeah.
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 Which that would have been maybe the next one in
This
succession, or was that one before?
No.
This
no,
one.
that was. What's the number on that one?
This one is
This one is next
think
in
that was
line.
the
this
next
is
one.
1003.
It came years later. It found its home years later, but this is a
This was in-
1004.
This was in 19 that I built this one. And
Yeah, this
that one
was March, I
18.
believe. No, this was March of 2019.
Okay.
Yep,
So,
and
yeah,
this one
it
was
was
July.
July.
It's July 20th, 2019, serial number 1004.
Which that guitar there is very,
This
very
is-
special. It's got a great story.
This is definitely one of my favorites, or it might be the favorite.
Yeah.
One that I've built, and just because it sounds good.
It's
I
special.
like the
for
smaller
sure.
body.
Yeah.
I like big bodies too. Nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
This is the first OEM sized guitar that I built. This is an Engelman Spruce top. I had a buddy of mine in mind when I made this,
Right.
trying to make it a little bit more contemporary other than vintage. So you have a little bit more contemporary rosette there. There's turquoise for the inlays instead of a pearl or
Mm-hmm.
abalone or something. It's still a very simple binding with just maple lines on each side. The same with the back stripe. And then
I love that little piece.
I do too.
Yeah.
I thought that was such a good touch.
love that little-
You got to turn
I love
that
that
around.
little-
Yeah.
so the zebra wood that
I don't know.
that was for the rosette is also for the heel cap, and then the butt wedge as well.
Yeah, that piece just sticks out so much to me.
That one gets played the most for sure. That one's a very special guitar. But you initially built that. You said you had a buddy that was like a finger style picker, right? That you were
Right.
gonna-
So this was a normally I build a 2 1/8, 2 3/16 saddle spacing. This one's 2 1/4, so you can get your fingers in just a little bit. I never would have thought that little 16th or 1/8 of an inch would make that much difference, but it does for me. I can feel I have to play a song or two through this one before I can
remember
get
where the spacing. Yeah.
get my fingers right. I feel like I have to reach a little bit, a
Sure.
little bit more. But then once those couple songs are down, for him this would have worked great. But he wasn't in the right spot for that. And
Right.
that's totally fine. I didn't mind keeping it at the house and playing it. To be real honest with you.
Yeah. I wouldn't have been bothered by that either. For
Yeah,
sure.
no.
It's got so many special qualities. But you had come over one night and we were just sitting here, and I had this one for quite a while,
Mm-hmm.
and Tony had been wanting to, Tony always wanted to learn guitar, and he was like, well, I guess I got to have a guitar before I learn how to play guitar. But that was for those of you who don't know, and if I'm overstepping here, I'm sorry, but I feel a need to share this with people just because of y'all's story is one of resilience, one of faith, and one of somebody that I look at and look up to. So if y'all don't know, for those of y'all that don't know, Chris and Amy have a son, Lincoln. Lincoln has what?
HLHS.
HLHS. So Chris and Amy have been, since Lincoln was born, have been in the hospital for
He spent the
more
first-
hours than you want to
yeah,
count, I'm
he
sure.
spent the first 5 months of his life in a hospital.
Right. So Chris was over one night, and we were just shooting the sitting here, and Tony left, or Chris left without a guitar that he brought over here. I'll put it that way. But little did I know from that, this would be the guitar I play every single night when I play. I've gotten more joy out of this, and I know Tony got a lot of joy out of.
I've gotten as much as y'all have. I can promise you. But it was,
Yeah.
With this deal when I came in that night, y'all were visiting, and you was like, man, look at this guitar Chris built. So I was looking, I was like, God, it's beautiful. And I said, what are you gonna do with that or whatever? And you said, I'm just gonna hang it up in here, and if one of the other guys come through that y'all are doing an interview with, or just guys that are playing here, if they see it and like it, tell them it's for sale. It's medical bills get expensive at times. So we were like, well, what's the deal with the story? And you said, oh, well, I built it, and you said I built it, and it's just been sitting there, because basically when that one between yours and Jacob's, then, and I don't think they would mind at all. Trey Yinger, was he the next artist other than Jacob, or was it Cody?
I think I built Cody's.
Cody
Cody's
Reynolds?
also has the piano. Cody's
Right.
a piano player, so
Right.
the
Had that
piano
same
top.
wood,
He
yeah.
had a kind of a dibs on the next
kind of the
one.
brother
Yeah.
of that. So basically you had built this one, but before you could find somebody or your whatever, then Cody had you build one, and then it was
And then
either
I think
Trey, and then it was Rick.
I think Rick. Yeah.
Rick with Crossroads. So you were building them, and so by the time life kind of came back around, and you were like, this one's been sitting there. I've enjoyed playing it, but right at this point, I could use the money more than the guitar. And
Right.
when you said that, something resonated with me. Well, man, that would be cool if we hung it up here on the wall, and an artist came in a week later and said, I got to have it, and wrote a check, and and everybody was happy. And then it dawned on me that all these guys coming through, rather than sell it once to one guy, if we could hang it up, that was how my mentality
Right.
was. That then and I know these guys, there's other artists, Texas artists that have played it and shown interest. I won't name their names, but when they've played it, it's like, all right, now I got something to save for and whatever, and they've gotten your contacts, and whether they contact you tomorrow or last week or a year from now, that would be cool because you'd sell the same guitar numerous times.
Correct.
It was kind of like, well, and I wanted a guitar. And then after I got it,
I want a guitar.
Want a
Can't
guitar.
play.
I called and checked with Rita. Case made. I checked. I was like, hey, I want to buy a guitar. And she's like, okay, love you. And so I got the guitar. But then after it was bought and we started talking about the timeline, we looked in the holes, and they were actually consecutive serial numbers, even though they were basically sold years apart,
Years
Yeah.
apart.
2 years apart. And it was kind of cool. I just came back, and I get a little choked up and emotional about it every time I think about it, and then to see Jacob play it as often as he does has really, really, really been. I just thank you so much. It's been a special treat to be. And I told you that night, the only reason I won't buy it is because I'm not ever going to be able to play it. And Jacob said, well, I'll play it. I like it. I said, as long as because I'll never
So
be
it
able
worked
to
out
do
for
what
me.
y'all do. When y'all play, it's, but it's getting played, and it's making me happy and making him happy.
It's making me happy too because it gets played.
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
that's what guitars need to be doing. They don't need to be sitting in your closet somewhere
For
collecting
sure.
dust. They need to be played.
And we say all that, and I bring up Chris's wife Amy and their son Lincoln because we've just got so much respect for you and respect for what you do, and we're always praying for y'all. And we'd ask that anybody out there watching would send a little prayer for Chris and Amy and Lincoln as well.
Who's doing pretty good right now? Huh?
He seems to be doing well.
He's doing well.
That's good. How old is he now?
He just turned a year.
So he's a year old. We're making progress.
Making progress.
That's
Went
good.
to the doctor today. He gained 2 pounds from the last time we went.
Excellent news.
It's very good.
So let's hear a little bit of this one, why don't we? I always like drop D, so that's
Who doesn't like drop
who doesn't
D?
like drop D? It's got that thing about it, man.
It sounds great. It's a small body, but it's got so much weight and heft in the bottom end. It's got sustain for days.
For days. It's so good.
It's got a great top end. I mean, it's like
So-
I said,
And
it's
small enough
probably
to
my
play,
favorite.
correct?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
comfortable to play.
well, yeah,
It's-
you can
well,
sit in a
it's
chair.
Comfortable sitting in a chair.
Right.
Yeah.
Which you don't sacrifice any of the sound or any of the volume. That's what I always say. It's loud, but it's not unbalanced. It's very balanced, but very loud.
That would be a great recording guitar, actually.
Man, I can't. When I'm gonna do some recording here pretty quick, and I'm definitely gonna use this one for sure.
I think you should.
I would agree. No, I'm not gonna sing anything, but we'll focus on this. Let's talk about the elephant in the room here, or whatever kind of wood that is.
No, that was the first one, or not the first one, but where did that one come along at?
That was the one you were like, I'm just gonna make this one as pretty as I can, right?
This is
And
number 1002.
All right, so that's
So-
right before Jacob's. It's just
So-
4 and that's 3. That's
Right.
the one right before that.
After I built the junker, as I call it, I never played it.
Starter.
Yeah, it was great. And then I built other guitars. I'm like, man, the more I build, I'm like, the worse that one sounds. Not that one sounds bad, it just sounds different, right?
but it's not as good as the
Yeah,
latter
not
ones,
as good
of
as some of
course.
the other ones,
Yeah.
so it's fine.
Right.
And I didn't expect it to be that great anyway.
Mm-hmm.
After I built the other
you
ones,
got it right on the first time.
yeah, I did them. What would I be doing now?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. You just be playing that one. You just
So-
stop.
I wanted to build something that I was proud of, something that was different than what I've seen, and hopefully it would sound good.
Right.
So I spent a lot of
Because
time.
you don't know until the end, do you?
I really don't.
I mean, you really, until it's all together and the strings
you
are
can
on
plan, and you can. There's certain things that I can do, and I can adjust. Once it's built, there's a small little margin there of what you can do. You just kind of hope that you have a good top that's been to the right width or the right thickness, and hope everything goes according to plan. And you said in the beginning,
What was your
luthier.
tone?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
No, that's not me. That's one thing I have to say. I don't consider myself a luthier. A luthier goes to school, or they've worked someplace that.
I just put you in that category, maybe.
Yeah,
I didn't know all
no.
the qualifications.
That's not me. That's not me. I build these guitars because I like to.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I hope they turn out well. And I will say that if anybody would ever get a guitar from me that they don't like the sound of, I'm fine with that. I'll keep it.
Yeah.
I'll keep it. I'm not gonna force you to take a guitar that you don't want.
Sure.
I want you to like your guitar. I want you to play your guitar. And if you're not gonna play it and you're not gonna like it, I'll keep it at the house and I'll do
Because
something.
it'll end up where it's supposed to when it's supposed to.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know what I mean? If
Yeah.
it doesn't,
It's fine.
this one here was built with somebody else in mind, and
Exactly.
just because it didn't,
Exactly.
I know it's in the right spot, and I'm glad it wasn't the perfect match for him, and when he, that's so if it don't match, it don't match. Do it again.
No, it's all good.
We can fix it.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. So, this one I wanted to spend the money on, and I did.
Yeah.
God, I spent too much money and way too much time. All of the abalone purfling, and went for the Adirondack top because you gotta have Adirondack if you want the vintage.
Right.
And I ended up getting the top in, and I didn't really care for it, but I used it anyway because that's what I had, and I spent a lot of money on it. I wasn't gonna send it back.
Sounds great. So.
The back and sides are Ziracote.
Ziracote.
It's a Mexican wood. Go down to Mexico. Again, I just love the sapwood.
I think that adds
Yeah.
character
much
to
up
it.
here.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
just love the way that looks.
It blends well.
It's bound with flame maple, and I did the headstock too because why not? This is also the first one that I actually did the Mistress wrote out inlay in because I wanted to try that.
Yeah,
out.
I think all of these just have the MG.
Yeah.
The first one, whatever the.
Yeah, those two. Well, the first one was just those are the pieces of shell I had left, and so I kind of figured out
Prototype logo.
what to do with them, and I just kind of pieced them together.
Yeah.
This one took a little more thought.
But that was very, very special.
It is to me. Actually, I'm trying to think here. The neck on this one, I think I ordered when I ordered material for that guitar,
Mm-hmm.
and it just looks so good. Just the grain pattern in it looked really good, and I was like, I don't want to put it on that one because if it sounds like junk, then I got a great looking neck, but the guitar sounds like a mess. So I saved it and I ordered another one, and that's
Put it
what I
on
used
that.
for that one.
Gotcha.
I saved that one for that long.
All
Just
those
because I
guitars.
liked the way that it looked. And so that I pulled the neck out and did that. I spent the money on Waverly Tuners.
Which
Not that
these
I
have
needed to.
Grovers in them, right?
Those are Grovers. They're all open gear. I like open gear tuners just because of the vintage look.
Yeah. And those are, you said Waverly?
These are Waverly. Those are half the cost, and to be honest with you, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't tell that much difference between the two. Maybe a touch smoother, but
Yeah.
that's about it. I wouldn't, if somebody wants Waverly's on their guitar, I don't have a problem with it. Generally, those would be my standard
And that's
Grover open gears.
the great thing that people can get when you buy a guitar from Chris is you literally get to pick everything, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
You've got full
No,
control.
I don't have any models. I don't have, everything kind of laid out. I mean, you tell me what size you want. You tell me what woods you want. You tell me what your inlays are going to be. You tell me the shape of your headstock. You want it Gibson-ish or Martin-ish or however you want it is how you do it. You pick out the back inlay. You pick out the rosette. I mean, you pick out the pick guard.
Yeah,
Anything you want.
can be done.
Yeah. Almost.
Almost.
Yeah, everything is picked out. They tell me what they want. I get them a close price of what I think it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to do quotes as far as it's going to cost you X amount of money, just because I think, just like in the construction business, I think 9 times out of 10, as long as you're dealing with good people, 9 times out of 10 you're going to get it cheaper by doing it by the hour, because they're not, if I have to give you a price on making this guitar, I would certainly make sure I had enough time involved, and so that price would start going up and up and up,
Mm-hmm.
just to cover my ass if I needed extra time.
Sure.
Right? So, and that's not always the case, but I like to do it by the hour. That way, if I need to spend time on something more than I can, but again, I'm always trying to figure out how to do things faster. I'm
Right.
going to be as efficient as possible.
Sure.
And that comes out in the price as well. So, yeah, I'll give them a price, and then I'll build a guitar. I will never charge anybody more than what I told them for that original price. Even if it does go over, it'll always be that price or less.
Well, that's good. It's a good way of doing
Yeah.
business. The best way to contact you is through Facebook, or?
You can message me through Facebook. That's great. Phone number 979-451-8000.
That's an easy one to remember.
Yeah, that's the best ways. Text, call, however.
And you are building guitars still, right?
I am slowly.
I know you don't have a whole lot of time, but
I used to be able to knock a guitar out like that or that in 3 months, and it's taken me about 6 months to do the last one.
Gotcha.
So I had a lot going on. Still have a lot going on.
Of course.
And I assume I will have a lot going on in the future. But yes, I am still building guitars.
Which
just
is
a little slower than normal.
well, excellent news that people can still buy guitars from you.
Excellent.
I know with your time constraints it's difficult, but guys, if anybody out there in YouTube land or Facebook land, I know this is probably going to go everywhere, but y'all like Mistress Guitars on Facebook, Chris Tiemann, the owner of that company. It's been an awesome privilege and a pleasure to have you here today. Tony, you got anything else?
Man, thank you. It was really, really fun. It was neat.
Thank you all for having me out.
Absolutely.
It was
Thank
neat,
you all for
neat
buying
hearing
my
more of the story
guitars.
behind these guitars.
I'll be in line to buy a guitar in the future, I'm sure, because I've got a couple of them in there.
Well, you've got a Dreadnought, you've got an OM now. What else? You got electric.
Just tell me what else I need. I guess I need a jumbo, maybe.
You need a jumbo.
I guess I need a jumbo. I've played trays. I enjoy it,
Yeah.
so I need to get it. Guys, from me, Chris, and Tony, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Take us out with some music.
I'll take us out with the music.
Play the lick. Play it.
There it is. Close enough.